Hello, everybody, and welcome to Serial Content Boot Camp Week 5. We have come a long way through choosing your best content, developing a writing habit, writing your first 3 installments or episodes to outline or not to outline. And today we're going to talk about the nitty-gritty of writing your episodes so that they're available to the widest possible audience, and also ways to get and incorporate reader feedback. So let's get started. So we're discussing writing episodes and incorporating reader feedback today, and you may have an expectation that I'm going to be discussing the finer points of writing like a mini MFA class. But I'm actually not going to talk about you at all. We're going to start with a question. Who is your reader? You know that you can write a story, but there are ways that you can ensure that your story is available to the biggest galaxy of readers that is possible. Today, when we talk about how to write episodes for serial content on Kindle Vella, we're going to talk about 2 major aspects of your reader's experience: readability and genre expectations. First, readability. Readability is the quality of being easy or enjoyable to read. Now, publishing on Kindle Vella is unique. Readers will not be reading your story on a page. Most people are reading serial fiction on their phone, and Kindle Vella is designed for this. So the good news is you do not need to worry about any of the readability factors like font, text size, font color, etc., because Vella is built to look great on your phone. What you will need to work towards is making your words readable. Now, there are many formulas for readability. Educators use readability metrics to teach children how to read, to measure literacy outcomes, design curriculum, etc. So here's a sample of just some of those readability metrics that matter to us as authors: sentence length, syllable density, and word familiarity. You see, reaching a larger audience is partly about a great story, and it's partly about making that story accessible to all types of readers. Readers on many different levels with different reading skills and vocabularies. And the average American enjoys reading at the 7th to 8th grade level. Now let that sink in for a minute, and then you're probably asking this next question. Does that mean that you're writing for an 8th grader? No, it doesn't. But thinking about readability will make your writing accessible and enjoyable to the widest readership possible, especially on a constantly expanding opportunity to reach readers like Kindle Vella. Most adults enjoy reading a few steps below their actual reading level. What this does is it allows them to read faster and to understand what they're reading easier. Here's an example to further explain. So we're going to think about this in terms of books that are considered beach reads. You've probably heard this term thrown around and seen it advertised, in a bookstore every time summer rolls around. Beach reads are categorized as being easy, entertaining, and they can be finished in one lazy day on the beach, maybe. This is all about readability. And one of my favorite beach reads of all time is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. Now, it's a romantic comedy that sold more than 1.5 million copies. Now, if you've read the book or you've watched the movie, you can agree that this is not a children's book. Kevin Kwan did not write this for 7th and 8th graders with their interests or content in mind. It's a smart and a funny satire that is written for adults. But when it comes to the complexity of the text, the readability, can you guess the grade level? Think about that for a minute. Can you guess the grade level? If you've read this book, what do you think it's rated at? The answer is sixth graders and above. That's right. Crazy Rich Asians is accessible to readers at a sixth grade level. Readability doesn't mean you're dumbing down your content or your story. It means being smart about your writing to welcome more and more readers for your book. And this is especially important when writing short episodes of serial fiction that people are reading on a teeny tiny phone screen. So let's dig into the logistics that you can start applying to your writing right now. In order to include the greatest majority of readers to enjoy your work, we're going to start with our basic building blocks, which are words. Whenever possible, choose smaller words. Smaller words does not mean, again, dumbing down. It means choosing words that are concise, choosing the best possible word that has the greatest impact of meaning. Now, smaller words are categorized by words that have less syllables and or fewer letters than larger words. For example, don't write comprehend when no will suffice. The goal here is to tell your story with as much impact as possible using the most accessible words that you can. Words should also be familiar. Now, a pleasant reading experience is dampened by overly complex language. So I'll explain a little bit using an analogy. I would like you now to imagine a cupcake. To provide a satisfying experience, the cupcake here should provide only what is needed and nothing more. This cupcake, oh, I'm getting hungry. It needs moist, flavorful chocolate cake and creamy but not too sweet icing. Now, if we overly complicate the cupcake, it ruins the eating experience. See how it suddenly became like, oh, that does not sound good. It's not a good combination. You went overboard. Why didn't you stop while you were ahead? So it's going to ruin the eating experience and you're left with a stomach ache, maybe a few cavities. Readability is about writing your story in an accessible way with nothing extra. Be concise and to the point. Here's an example based not on my beautiful cupcake illustration, but with some text. So, the purple-hued peony basks marvelously under the sun's glowing gaze. Now, I think that perhaps we might be able to say this with an accent or some very dramatic hand gestures, because that's just what this makes you feel like. You can agree there are too many sprinkles on this cupcake. Put the gummy bears away. It doesn't need Reese's Pieces. There's too many things going on here. How could we simplify this? Well, first off, for example, why write purple hued when you can write purple? Overly complicated writing is a hallmark of inexperience. It's a dead giveaway to an editor and often to a reader that the author isn't confident in their ability to tell a story. You might think that a sentence like this makes you sound smart and intelligent and artistic as an author, but it actually does the exact opposite. And then there's this pesky adverb, marvelously. Adverbs are words that end in ly, and they modify a noun or a verb, which means that the adverb changes the meaning of that noun or verb. So here we see bask is the verb, and the adverb marvelously is changing that meaning a bit. So, okay, what is this author trying to tell us? It's not a normal bask, it's a marvelous bask. But think, what does that even mean? How does someone bask marvelously? As a reader, can you even picture in your head what that might look like? Um, here's what I thought. Is this perhaps basking marvelously? What you can see from this example is that this is a pointless exercise for your reader. This is stopping your reader. This is making them turn away, tune out. They're like, what is basking marvelously? I don't know. This person's wasting my time. They're not using words in the right way. What you want to do is to please let your reader use their imagination. It engages readers more as they build the world in their minds. They're not disappearing into your story. Pardon me. They are disappearing into your story. They're not trying to sift through imprecise language. Use an adverb if the meaning of a noun or verb must be modified. You should have a very good reason to use an adverb. Otherwise, just allow your reader to fill in the blanks. Choose the best noun or verb that communicates what you want to tell in the story, and then let the reader use their imagination. Okay, so let's go back and let's try and fix this sentence about our purple hued flower. So here's an example of really simplifying it. The purple peony grows in the sun. Now, perhaps this is too simplistic for you, but there are ways to add your own voice and artistry while maintaining readability. And this comes with practice and revision. Complicate your text only if you must. Choose wisely, and your reader is really going to appreciate it. So you might think that this whole process takes a really long time, but do you want to know what? There is a quick shortcut to analyze the readability of your writing, and I use these almost every single day. There are free readability checkers available online. You copy and paste a section of your text. Most of them won't do an entire piece, but you can get an inkling of what your writing is about. So you copy and paste a section of your text into the readability checker, and it will give you many different metrics about how accessible your writing is to the general public. These are the two that I use most often. I want you to do an experiment today. Copy and text some of your writing into one of these readability checkers and see where it rates. Because you know what? Hey, if Kevin Kwan can do it, so can you. And 1.5 million books don't lie. Thank you so much for the inspiration, Kevin. Okay, now we're going to change gears and we're going to discuss genre expectations, the second aspect of who is your reader. So, genre is defined as a category of artistic composition, as in music or, in our case, literature, characterized by similarities in form, style, or subject matter. You're familiar with many of these genres already. Genres in literature include, but they're not limited to the ones that are listed here. We've got fiction, nonfiction, poetry, drama. You probably have already a good idea of what genre or genres your story falls into. Now, based on categories and tags that you're going to use in Kindle Vella, your reader is going to have certain expectations based on the genre that you choose to associate your story with. For example, a mystery story should have, yes, a mystery. A romance story should have the pursuit of romantic love as the major conflict. Now, the best way to be aware of genre expectations is to read lots and lots of books in your genre. The bottom line is that you should know what kind of story you're writing, and your reader should know what kind of story they're reading. So, can you twist the genre? Absolutely. But you should do it on purpose and you should do it well. Otherwise, you're just misrepresenting your story to your audience and they will sniff out a fake right away and they will stop reading. One of the main expectations that readers have of your genre, pardon me, one of the main expectations that readers of your genre will have are obligatory scenes and conventions. As an author, you learn what these scenes and conventions are by studying other books. For example, a reader scrolling through episode 1 of your murder mystery expects to read a dead body being discovered. Yeah, right away. Right away, they're looking for that dead body scene because that's an expectation they have. That's why they're reading this genre. Romance readers are expecting the confession of love scene. Horror readers are expecting a scene where the monster attacks. Nonfiction readers are expecting you to debunk something that all of us believe, that we all assume to be true. So, how do you find out what your reader is expecting from your story? Well, it's the same answer. You need to read lots of books in your genre. And that's how you will know. You'll see the same types of scenes, the same sort of conventions repeating over and over again. And this is something that your reader will expect, and it's something that readers enjoy. And finally, in our reader discussion today, we're going to talk about one more aspect to our reader, and that is feedback. Readers can provide you with feedback. It's one of the best aspects of telling stories on Kindle Vella. And there is one way to directly gather feedback, and that is here with episode polls. You have the opportunity to include a poll with each episode where you can ask your readers for feedback. So you have to think who, what, where, why, and what's next. You're going to have the opportunity to let your reader decide. It's a level of reader engagement that you can get with serial stories. And it's something really special about publishing on Kindle Vella. You should be able to use it to your very best ability, but it's going to take some planning. So let's look at the examples here. First, we have an episode poll that says, what city should she discover next? So you see here, the author is allowing her readers to choose the setting. Now, she had to have planned this in advance. When you create this poll, you get to choose what the question and the different options are. So she had to have had some type of story idea for each one of these, or maybe they're already pre-written, and depending on what the audience voted for, she would be able to then use this content for the next episode. There's a number of different ways that planners and plotters can do this in our polling exercises. So the next episode poll is an example of how to involve them in different characters. The question is, what should Eleanor name her new turtle? So we've got 4 different answers here, and it lets readers then participate. And then when they read that next episode, when Eleanor gets her turtle, well, they're going to see the name that they engaged with, that they chose. So when you're thinking about creating polls, you have to decide how you're able to involve the audience in this way, and if you want to. So for my Kindle Vella story, Hex My Ex, I decided to think, okay, I can't necessarily incorporate reader feedback from one episode to the next. I need some lag time in between to create the new content. And so, what I decided to do is create polls that would be associated with episodes that were in my plan 2 to 3 episodes in advance, so that I'd have the opportunity to get the reader feedback, then think about how I was going to incorporate it, and then have time to actually write and plan. Now, for my first question, I decided to ask them how one of my characters was going to feel. So Episode 1 is just post breakup. And my main character, Poe, is has decided to engage a supernatural paranormal type of entity and hex her ex. Now, after she does this, she's not necessarily sure whether it's true or not because the hex is on the bottom of a pint of ice cream. So she doesn't necessarily know if it happens or not. So at the end of the episode, I decided to give my readers the opportunity to determine how was Poe going to feel the next morning when she woke up. Was she going to feel instant regret that she had even had this thought about her ex? Was she going to feel jubilant that now she was going to be free? Um, there was a couple different options that I gave my readers to decide. And I knew that I wasn't going to write about that character's reaction until at least 2 episodes later. So you have the opportunity to plan them out in advance and decide when you want to use a poll and how. Do you want to talk about setting? Do you want to talk about characters? Do you want to give them the opportunity to choose character names or pet names? There are so many different ways. I encourage you, especially in your first Kindle Vella story, to experiment. Ask all sorts of questions and see which ones your readers really respond to and which ones they don't. For my second poll, I again planned ahead to ask my readers a question that I was going to include at least 2 episodes in the future. So the second question I asked was, as we get into episode 2, my readers find out that yes, the hex is real and that some bad things are going to start happening. So I really wanted my readers to be able to choose what kind of monsters they might see. So I had a number of different options that they could choose. Which one of these monsters did they really look forward to seeing? I discussed one of the characters in that particular episode, in episode 2, and asked if they would like to see that character as a monster. And of course, that one is the one that got the most votes because it's a really oddball character. Remember our palm criteria? It's a very oddball character. So I decided that I wanted to give them some interaction in what kind of monsters were going to show up when this situation got really bad. So a couple other things to know when using the interactive poll feature are that when you put your poll, you have the opportunity to again choose the question. You also have the opportunity to decide what the options are. And then you need to put a timer on it. So, because you don't want your poll to go indefinitely into the future, because then your readers would be interacting with it after you've already written the content that the poll applied to. And they might not understand that, oh, I guess my vote didn't really matter. So you have the chance to say, yes, I want this poll to be open for the next week, the next 2 weeks. You get to decide how long the poll is going to go. And you can base this on your writing schedule. You have some idea based on our earlier work in this boot camp about when you're writing and how much time it takes you to write each episode. So put that into your planning. Consider, okay, how long do I want to give my readers the opportunity to think about this and answer? And you're going to put that timestamp on accordingly. Now, after a reader votes, they're able to see the results of all of the other readers who have responded. It's anonymous, of course. It just shows up just like you see here in the picture. Do you see that it will show up as yes? This one is more blue. Well, yeah, 70 something percent voted for this one. So they'll start to see who's in the lead. And then when the poll is over, readers will still be able to see it at the end of your episode. So they'll know what the results were and they can still look forward to seeing that piece of feedback incorporated into later episodes. But they will only see the results window and they won't be able to vote. but it still gives them kind of that fun interactive piece as well. Now, Kindle Vella in their help section has a lot of very precise instructions on how to set up a poll if you have any questions. So log into your Kindle Direct Publishing account and search for help topics for Kindle Vella, and you will see reader polling right there with step-by-step instructions on what to do and how to set it up. But with everything with Kindle Vella that I've experienced so far, it's very logical. When you're creating your story, it flows. When you get to the bottom, it gives you the option to add a poll, and you can decide to do that or not. So I hope you find that it has that really logical and easy to use flow as well. Because I know the folks at Amazon put a lot of thought into how to structure this particular opportunity for authors to make it easy, because it's not like just posting your book on Kindle one time. You have to interact with this particular setup every week, sometimes more than once a week. And so it's a great opportunity to, so they've tried to make it as easy as possible, and I have found it to be so. All right, so we've talked about who your author is, readability, genre expectations, and we've talked about how to gather feedback from your audience and incorporate some of that, not only in your writing schedule, but in your writing. So for next week, let's talk about next steps. What I'd like you to do is, number one, check the readability of your writing and see how you can improve. Explore the genre and ensure that you're including key scenes and genre conventions. Remember, you can be creative, you can absolutely twist up your genre and the conventions, but you should know what you're doing ahead of time. You should read in your genre and be doing everything with intention. And number three, plan where you can engage your reader with polls. All right, now I'm going to take some questions. Go ahead and pop those in the chat, and we'll see what all of you are wondering. Jennifer asks, so layout is predetermined, and we basically, and we basically don't need any help from a layout editor. Correct. When you try to go in there, you will see that there are certain specifications that Vella already has in their text editor. And so you have somewhat limited choices at this point, but you do not need a layout editor. You can copy and paste your work right out of Microsoft Word or whatever program you use, pop it in there, check out the formatting in Kindle Vella, and then hit publish, and you're ready to go. It's already formatted for someone's phone and the best readability possible. It really makes it easy. Is there a Vella app? Vella is just part of your regular Kindle app right now. So if you have the Kindle app on your phone, you just click on it, and if you search for Vella stories, they're going to populate just like the rest of your library in the Kindle app. I have a number of different book creators, Kindle Vella stories that I'm following, and they show up in my library on my app, just like the rest of my books that I'm reading. It's really cool and convenient. Jennifer asks, how long a clip do you put into the site? A sentence, paragraph, page, or episode? Okay, Jennifer, so I assume you're asking about the readability checkers. Each readability checker for access to the free service will usually tell you how much you can put in. Sometimes it's a page, sometimes it's a paragraph. You can try and, copy and paste as much as you want to put into a checker at one time, but it'll usually tell you how many words or characters it will check for you for free. So check each site. Probably time for one more question here if anybody else is wondering something. I'm really anxious to see what you guys experience with the readability checker. I found that it's incredibly helpful to reach the largest amount possible and to have people really enjoy and have access to your content in a way that really can stretch the reach of your work. Well, thank you so much. Yes, we do. Do we need to do virtual high five, everybody? All right, ready? Look around you. Don't worry about if anybody thinks you weird, and just go boom. I was born with this, unfortunately. Incredible personality. No, definitely, fortunately. Thanks for the cheerleading, you guys. I appreciate it. Well, everyone, it's always such a pleasure to be with you. Next week is going to be our very last live stream where we're going to talk all about promotion. And we're going to have a special guest that's going to come join us. She has a very successful Kindle Vella story, and she's going to take questions and answers and talk all about some different aspects of publishing on Kindle Vella. So if you're part of our book creators group, make sure that you join us directly after this at our Zoom link for our special office hours and more in-depth Q&A. For everybody else, please get out there, start publishing, and make sure that you are tagging book creators so that we can look for and support your work. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.